How do we classify our athletes?
Okay, it's pretty simple. I mean, one of the fantastic things about sailing, compared with other Paralympic sports, is that we don't have a 100-meter race, but one for this disability, that disability, that disability. In one class, in the Sonar, in the Scud, in the 2.4, everybody's racing against each other in that class. So it's very simple. There is a sliding scale of disability. There are benchmark disabilities. So somebody severely disabled with a very high break in the neck would be classified as a 1. Somebody with a minimal level of disability is classified as a 6 or a 7, and everything else slots in there somewhere in between, including visual disabilities. Yeah. And each class has a requirement for a certain number of points.
So essentially, if you sail and you're disabled, irrespective of the level of your disability, we could find a class for you to go racing in at the Olympics.
Absolutely right.
Fantastic.
Yes, absolutely right.
That's really good.
The other thing is that each of the classes, you're allowed to have all sorts of adaptations, which in a Olympic class you wouldn't be allowed by class rules. Specifically, you're allowed adaptations. So if you have a particular disability which means that you can't do something, for example, the Scuds have electric chairs which tip from one side to the other. You're allowed to adapt your boat to minimise any disadvantage from your disability.
So in the 2.4 you can do hand steering, foot steering, or both?
Exactly right, yeah.
Brilliant. What's the Sonar? Sonar,
3-person boat, designed by Bruce Kirby, the designer of the laser. He says it's the best boat he ever designed. It's a boat which produces great racing. That's what I would say. The racing is fantastic. And the boat, although it looks a little bit dated these days, when you get in and sail it, it's a nice boat. As you know, Penny, it's a nice boat to sail. Yeah. So 3-person, no spinnaker, pole the jib out on the run, big mainsail. Somewhere in between the 2.4 and the Scud in terms of how one design it is. So we're allowed different sail makers, and we do quite a lot of sail development. So there's a fair amount of tweaking, but not as much tweaking as there is in a 2.4.
And it's actually quite a big boat, and actually a lot faster than you might expect. I mean, it's faster than the Yingling that used to be in.
Oh yes,
in the
it's a big boat, and we've because we're so short of sonars in this country, or sonars in disabled mode in this country, we have over the years raced with the Stars and the Yinglings. We are faster than the Yinglings upwind. We're about the same speed as the Stars upwind, but they're both miles faster downwind because one's got spinnaker and one's got an enormous mainsail. But yeah, it's great fun when we end up with all of those boats, or when we have ended up with all of those boats on the same racetrack. And the Olympic sailors thinking, we really do not want to be beaten to the windward mark by these Paralympic sailors.
Fantastic. So those are the boats and how Paralympic sailing works. Let's start looking at our actual sailors. You're the Sonar coach, yep. Going to the games with our guys. That's a really long-standing partnership, isn't it? They went to Athens together.
These guys went to Athens together, yes. So they've done this. This will be their 3rd Paralympics.
And how did they team up? How did they get together?
Well, they teamed up before I was involved, but and the story is so old. I don't know how much of it is
it's myth.
It's myth, but John, who broke his back in a motorbike accident, he had sailed mirrors and stuff like that before. He got into competitive racing through the Challenger program, which is a trimaran, single-handed trimaran, and was encouraged to have a look at Paralympic sailing. Sonar was obviously going to be the boat for him, but he needed to find some people to sail. At that time, Hannah was in the youth program. She had been a champion in mirrors, 2-man able-bodied class, and then sailing, I think 29ers,
yeah,
a trapeze boat anyway. And she was encouraged to go and sail with John. Oh, that was going to be a good partnership, obviously. Then they're looking for somebody big, strong and fit. And the story goes, somebody saw Steve working out in a gym in Cardiff somewhere and says, "Hey Steve, do you fancy learning how to sail?" It's a good story.
It is indeed. So essentially, we've got people from different sailing backgrounds, some coming through, and then Steve, who actually learnt to sail by coming onto the Olympic programme, which is fantastic. So they're a real medal hope for us. They've been world champions. They've consistently finished in the top 3 at the World Championships for as long as I can certainly remember. They've won heaps of medals. How do they keep going? How do they keep looking for those improvements in order to find that elusive Olympic medal for them?
That's a really interesting question, and I think they've been sailing so long together, and they've had plenty of highs, and they've had some real lows. They now know what it takes, how much effort and determination, and how they have to keep pushing to get that Olympic medal. We went into China having won 2 World Championships, probably a little bit overconfident, and went from winning 2 World Championships to suddenly not being able to win a race or a regatta. And then China was really disappointing until the last day. They won both races on the last day. Showed exactly what they were capable of doing. I think memories of that is something which is going to keep you pushing on and on and on and on until you really have honestly done everything you can to sail to the best of your ability.
And when we're watching them racing in September, what are we going to see as their strengths? What are we going to see them actually trying to really utilise to make sure they win that gold medal?
They're a very good team. They're 3 very different people who really support each other well. And in a 3-person boat, that is really important. That is very important. And as well as personalities, they've each got their strengths. Steve is really strong. He's really fit. There's another possible myth that he ended up in a bench press competition with Ben Ainsley and Ian Percy, and gave them a bit of a shock. But he's strong, and he keeps going, and he's incredibly determined. Hannah, she's very good on the tactics. She's the tactician. She's the one who's working out the wind, working out where to position the boat. And we've been really working with Hannah really hard to turn that from a strength into a super strength over this cycle. And then John, he's got fantastic time on distance skills. He sails the boat beautifully. He's got a great feel for a boat. We'll be relying on him just to keep everything calm and just keep the boat going fast all the time.
Brilliant. Looking at our sailors in some of the other classes, moving on to 2.4, Helena's a little bit unique, really, isn't she? She was born with her disability, but then came through able-bodied sailing and actually mounted a 470 campaign.
Yeah. To be honest, you speak to any of our athletes, and none of them really regard themselves as disabled. Okay, they seem to be in a wheelchair, but they don't.
Yeah.
And Helena, it takes that to the extreme. If none of the Olympic sailors like cycling with her because they can't keep up. She is so quick. She is so strong. She's really fit. Yes, she started off. She just came up through the normal youth classes, toppers. Sailed a 470 at the highest level. Wasn't that far off competing to qualify for the Olympics. But there are a couple of things about her disability which aren't immediately obvious when you meet her, cycle with her, sail with her, which do give her, although she wouldn't own up to it, do give her a slight disadvantage in able-bodied classes. So she's a prime candidate to get into a Paralympic boat and really show the world what she can do.
Yeah. And she's seen great success over the years, also won World Championship medals. How do you rate her chances coming into this Games?
Well, she spent a long time just bouncing in and out of 4th, 3rd, pushing for 2nd, and she spent a lot of time doing that, and it all just looks like it's, she's coming into form this year. She's sailed exceptionally well. Her boat's going well. She's got equipment that she's really confident with, and she only just missed out on a gold medal in the Sail for Gold Regatta on countback. So, she's in great form and got every chance of doing well.
Yeah, and certainly the most confident I've ever seen her coming into an Olympic
She's got
Games.
a lot of confidence. She's really cool. She's fit.
Yeah, brilliant. And then some might argue possibly our biggest medal hope, Nikki Birrell and Alex Rickham in the Scud dinghy, reigning world champions. I've lost count of how many times they've won the world championships. I mean, they've got to be favourites for gold.
They are favourites for gold. They went to China with high hopes of a medal. Things didn't quite work out for them, so I think that's another bit of impetus for them to have trained really hard over the last 4 years. Alex took over the steering, and since then they've won every world championship since.
And Alex is similar to Steve, isn't she? She's not from a sailing background.
No, I think Alex did some recreational sailing. She sort of was partly brought up in the UK, partly in Jamaica. But I think she's only come into real competitive sailing since she had her accident.
Yeah. And conversely, Nikki, he's come through able-bodied sailing, similar to Helen of 420s.
Absolutely. I mean, Nikki was born with CP. Yes, he definitely doesn't regard himself as disabled, even when he falls off the foredeck of the boat. And yeah, he sailed. He sailed at the highest level in all sorts of UK and international classes before he got into Paralympic sailing. Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure whether it's entirely unique in the world, but we make sure that our Paralympic sailors are fully integrated into our Olympic programme. I mean, what benefits does that bring for them?
Well, I think it benefits everybody. Sparky, our Olympic manager, has a great quote. He says, "Well, all of our team has special needs. That's the Olympic sailors and the Paralympic sailors. To be a potential medalist, you have to, as you know, Penny, you have to be a fairly special sort of person, and so you have special needs." The great thing about being part of one team is we have the same support staff, same coaches, same physios, nutrition. All of the resources from the team are pooled, which is fantastic. The Paralympic sailors see the Olympic sailors doing well, trying things out. They want to try them, do them. In terms of, there aren't very many of the Paralympic classes sailing at top level in the UK, so we're always struggling to find people in training to push us on. The great thing is that means we can get the Olympic sailors to come and sail our tune-up. It is great to be all part of one team, and it is pretty unique for Olympic Paralympic sport.
Mark Rushall, thank you very much, and best of luck at the Paralympics.
Thanks very much, Penny.